Alrighty, well, I think I know everyone on the call today, but if I do not, my name is Ellie Moore. I'm Vice President of Community Impact and Outreach here at the Community Foundation, and I am excited to kind of walk you through some slides today, really around our fall impact grants. So you might be familiar with these. I think we have kind of all levels of familiarity on the call with this grant cycle, but I'm going to walk through all of the pieces for you again. Feel free to stop me as I go with any questions you might have. I will do my best to watch chat. But I am solo driver today, so if I miss a chat and someone is able to unmute and let me know, that would be great too. But I will try to keep an eye on both things. And I apologize in advance. I've got two screens going, so I'm going to be not looking directly at you some of the time. My slides are on a separate screen, so. Alrighty, well, that said, thanks for joining us. We've got pretty good representation here on the call from all different types of organizations across the county, so that's super great, and lots of different sizes of orgs as well. So lovely to have you all here. I will be walking through our grant making strategy really as a whole, kind of what that looks like. We have a three-prong approach that we have been using for the last year or so. So we'll talk through what that looks like, and then we'll really use the time to dive into the impact grants and what this cycle entails. So our grant making strategy, we're leaning into our role as a community funder. We're doing our best to use best practices in the field. We've been shifting, as I'm sure most of you are aware, over the last about 5 years, the way that we've been doing our grant making here. And so each year we try to get a little closer to best practice, a little closer to impact. One of the ways that we're shifting is really through more impact grants. So larger, fewer grants, things that are kind of moving the needle a little bit more. However, we also have heard from you all that it is still needed to have smaller organizational operating support grants as well. And we really know that our role as a funder in the county is kind of a small one overall, if you're looking at funding overall in the county. And so our piece is really to uplift and support nonprofit organizations in kind of a variety of ways. But we will continue to provide operational support as well and continue to educate donors on the importance of that piece. So our grant making itself from the Community Foundation discretionary funds, so what we actually have control over, really comes in two different competitive cycles. So we have our fall impact grant cycle, typically running from July to October. This is our 5 $25,000 grants. These are in both program and capital campaign support. So either of those two kind of buckets. We'll really dive into those grants today. But outside of that cycle, we also do a spring capacity building cycle. The spring cycle is those operational support grants, smaller, lots more of them, and that's going to be up to $2,500 in grant making support. So those are our two true competitive application-based cycles that we as a board of directors designate where the funds are going. We do have a lot of grant making outside of those two, so we'll talk about that on the next slide. But outside of these two competitive cycles, we also have a giving catalog. If you are not familiar with that, we should get familiar with that. Reach out to me. We've got some resources and a different education session on what that looks like, how to be part of that. But really, it's kind of an online giving tool specific for our donors to be able to see current requests, current needs from you all. Those requests are specific program needs as well, and will be up to $2,500. So check that out if you haven't already. We do that on kind of a rolling cycle. So they're up for about 6 months, and then if not fully funded, we usually leave them up for the second half or the second cycle. But that's kind of all dependent on what you need and if you need to shift a request to something different. I will say the giving catalog is not application-based. It's not competitive. We have you fill out a quick form, so we have the info we need. But we are not funding those requests through CFJC dollars. That is where we're able to share your needs with our community members. So those are kind of our three strategies for our discretionary funds. Outside of that, though, we have our donor advised grant making. So about $2.5 to $3 million annually we grant make out of our donor advised funds. So this is really the bulk of our work, the bulk of our grant making. are these donor-directed grants. These are non-competitive, non-application. They can be kind of all over the place. So they can be programmed, they can be operational, they can be very restricted, they can be completely unrestricted. These grants are kind of our day-to-day work. They're happening all year round. There's not a cycle, there's no app, none of that. Those specific grants, anything we send out from the Community Foundation, we call a grant, whether or not it's got an application. So those grants are coming from donors who hold funds with us. We help them kind of determine where those go, but 98% of the time, when donors come to us to open a fund, or if they already have a fund, they know where those donations are headed. They already have that determined. Occasionally, we can help direct those. For the most part, it's donations that they're already doing, charitable giving they're already doing in the community, but we're a tax efficient tool for them to use. So we can kind of get into DAFs a little more in the Q&A if you've got questions about how that works. But our nonprofits don't have direct communication with our donor advised fund holders. We don't allow solicitation of our DAFs. Really what's happening there for you to be able to access DAF dollars is putting your needs in the giving catalog. We do share giving catalog requests with our donor advised fund holders very frequently. And if someone has a specific ask, what our current community needs, we're able to go to that as one of our tools for them to see kind of what's going on in the community. So it's very important for you to have something in that giving catalog so that we have something to point to for those DAFs if they're looking for something that they might not be aware of or want to see what current community needs are. Does that all make sense, that DAF piece? Jeff, did you have something to add there?
I don't think so.
Okay. I see the wheels turning.
Yes.
Oh, good. So just wanted you to be fair. Just wanted you to be aware that when you see our grant making dollars and you see kind of our annual report and it says we grant $3 million every year, that's where most of those grants are coming from. The competitive cycles are a very small portion of what we're doing as far as grant making. In addition to those donor advised grants, we also have a couple additional competitive cycles, which means application-based cycles. Some of those are community funds. So we have a Coralville Community Fund and we have a Swisher Community Fund who run grant cycles. Those are not included in our kind of discretionary grant making because we have committees who oversee that work and they are specific to certain needs. So for example, Coralville grants are only supporting programs and projects happening in Coralville. We also have a fund called the Cauldron Fund for Seniors. We have now grown it enough to be able to do its own competitive cycle. So that opened last year for the first time as its own standalone cycle. That is a fund specific to senior support and is also run by a committee. And then we have the 522 for Good Giving Circle who does their grant making through our funds every year as well. So that's kind of an overview on total grant making happening at the CFJC, what that looks like. But now we get to dive into why you're here today, which is the Community Impact Grants, our cycle this fall of 5 $25,000 awards. So the purpose of this grant cycle is really to invest in projects that substantially increase quality of life for our residents through you all and your work. So to be eligible to apply for a grant, you must be a 501c3 nonprofit organization and or a fiscal sponsor. We can talk about that. You must be serving Johnson County residents, whether or not your business location is in Johnson County. Lori has a question in the chat about Cauldron Fund for Seniors, who runs that. So we have a donor who built that fund. The donor is no longer involved in the decision-making process. That is run by our grants committee from our board of directors. Any other questions on that fund, Lori? Perfect. All right. Sorry, I have to move my chat out of the way so I can see all of your faces. The eligibility for the impact grants, again, 501c3, serving Johnson County. And these requests are specific to either program support or capital campaign support. But really where I want you to go to look and see if the project or program you're thinking about fits is in the grant guidelines. So that is on our website. I'll show you where those live. But we, in an attempt to be as transparent as possible about our priorities for funding, have created a guideline sheet, which I'm going to put in the chat here for you. But I'll show you where it lives on the website as well. This guideline has lots of information about what we prefer to fund, what we prefer not to fund. It might help you kind of work with language in your application as well, which will be helpful. All of our reviewers are trained prior to the review process, and they get this document as well to be able to see kind of where the committee prefers to fund. So this guideline is really where I want you to start. If you have an idea of what a project or program might look like that you want to apply for, check it against this kind of tool, and we'll see if that seems to fit. If you still have questions about fit, reach out, let me know. I am happy to do one-on-ones, chat through what your project is, where it might be a best fit, or if this grant cycle doesn't seem to be a fit, what other funding opportunities you might have. So those guidelines are a really important tool for you as you think about your application. We will go into just a little bit about some of the things we prefer to fund. So we are looking for equity-centered strategies and programs. We are looking for collaborative requests. It doesn't necessarily have to be a collaborative request, but we do appreciate seeing that. Whether or not that's two organizations coming together to split the grant funds, or just an example of here's how we're working with other organizations on this project or program. Collaboration also can include corporations, individuals, all of those kind of pieces. It doesn't necessarily have to be two nonprofit organizations or more working together. We also appreciate seeing the grant award leveraged. We really hope that you're able to use our grant to show some kind of community support, community backing for projects that you're doing, and be able to leverage that into additional gifts. So feel free to use our name on other applications. If someone says, who else is supporting this? How is this being funded? You can say you've applied for funding from the Community Foundation. That's been helpful. Infrastructure. So we will do capital campaign support. That's new. We had not done that previous to last year, I don't believe. So know that that is an opportunity. Quality of life. So again, new collaborative programs that significantly increase quality of life for our residents is super important. And transformational programs that are working at systems change level are super to see as well. Really trying to make an impact and move the needle. Our timeline for these grants this year, so they open today. You should be able to get in, see the application, start working on things in the actual portal. And they close on August 15th. So you've got about a month. Again, during that time, feel free to reach out, ask questions, let me know if you need anything. Especially let me know if the portal isn't working correctly so I can get that fixed. But those apps will close on the 15th. We'll be doing evaluations via our community review teams in August and September. I think applicants will know pretty early in October whether or not they've been awarded, and then we'll do the true award celebration, handing over of the check at our anniversary celebration on October 30th. So we really try to keep it a fairly tight timeline. With the community review process, we do have some time in there for evaluation and scoring. So trying to tighten that up, but from August to October is about the time frame. So where to find information on the grants after this call? If you go to our website, cfjc.org, you should see this slider first thing right away. You can click on that big orange Learn More button, and that'll take you straight to the page. Otherwise, you can always click on Grant Making. Then it will have a drop-down menu of grant opportunities and the fall impact grants. Hopefully fairly easy to find all the info you need. That page has a lot of information on it, but if you scroll partway down, you'll see kind of the main pieces that might be helpful to you. So there will be this grant guidelines button. That's the same link I put in the chat for you. The true kind of document fully describing what we're looking for. There is a pre-read application. So rather than having to go into the grants portal, building an account if you don't have one, all those pieces, you can see the application in advance. It is out. check that out, take a peek. You can start compiling your information before getting into the portal. And then the application button itself is also on that page. So this apply button is going to lead you to the grants portal where we do all of our online application. The other way to find the portal, if you don't want to go all the way through the grants page every time, we do have kind of a more direct link under the grant making tab. So if you hit grant making on our kind of top bar, that's always across the top of your website page, there is a page that just says grants portal. That leads you to this, which is our login link to the grants portal always. This page is also where FAQs live. If you have questions, concerns about how to use the portal itself, there's a video tutorial, a written tutorial, kind of all the tools you should need about how to utilize the grants portal online. I do want to make sure I highlight My Fund login, which is always at the top left corner of our website, is not our grants portal. That is a donor portal for donors to access their donor advised fund information. So if you try your login there, it will not work. So make sure you're going in through the grants portal, which is either the application button on the True Grants page or on the grants portal page, the login button. That all makes sense? Easy enough to find? Perfect. Alrighty, couple FAQs. So organizations are only allowed to submit one application for this cycle. We also have asked those who received an impact grant last year in last year's cycle to not apply. We will not be funding year after year the same organization. So just know that. But we have one application per org. However, you can still apply for capacity building grants, 524 goods grants, Swisher grants. One per cycle is all that we're asking. Again, information about the grants management system, the grants portal is on that grants portal webpage, so you can find details and tutorials there. We do have community reviewers making the grant decisions, so they actually the application for that is open. So if you're interested in being a reviewer, you can apply to do that as well. But we try to get a group of folks who are pretty diverse representation of our community at whole to do that kind of piece. So they will review, score, and make recommendations on where our grant dollars are going. Then our grants committee on our board of directors and our board will approve those grant recommendations. So we have kind of a 3-stage process. You are still eligible to apply if you're a United Way agency. There is kind of a place for additional funding as one of the application questions. Just indicate that there. That's helpful to us. So resources you can find on the website, lots of things. Hopefully everything you need is on that one web page. We'll have lots of things coming out in our e-newsletter, so that might be where you saw information for today. And then our Facebook as well has some announcements, links, those kinds of things. I'm hopeful we'll have a fun announcement for you here in a couple weeks. We have a board meeting this week, so we'll hear and then we'll let you know. But either way, we'll for sure have $525,000 grants coming out this fall. So excited for that piece. And as always, our staff is happy to be a resource for you. So reach out to me or any of my teammates, and we're happy to walk through things with you there as well. Just so you know kind of how this fits in our full cycle, this is our grants timeline kind of for the next 6-ish months, 12 months. And so we have our giving catalog, spring distribution that happened in June. We're kind of rolling most of those over into the fall giving catalog, but there's still opportunity to add requests. So that's rolling. Anytime you need to add a request or change your request, you're welcome to do that. We have our community impact grants this fall open today. We'll do that distribution. Oops, sorry, that's October, not November. October 30th, so almost November. But October 30th, we'll do that distribution. And then we kind of flip over for our new cycle of giving catalog at the end of the year into the beginning of the new year as well. And then we'll do spring capacity in February, open those up for you then. I am going to walk through portal specifically for our recording. I think most of you are familiar with the portal, but I am going to walk through a couple of the big pieces there. So feel free to zone out if you're very familiar with the online portal for a few minutes, and then we'll come back together. So when you hit that apply button or the grants portal login button, you come to this page. This is what it should look like. If it does not look like this, you're likely on the donor portal. So back out and go find the link for our grants portal. If you have a login already, you know what that is. Great. Put in your info, hit that login button. If you don't have a login, there's kind of two ways we can go about it. If your organization has applied for a grant from the CFJC, reach out to me. I will likely need to create a user for you, but I want to make sure that user stays connected to the old organization information. So please let me know. We'll build one out for you. It usually will stop you if you put in an EIN that we already have in the system, if you're trying to create something new, and let you know that you need to reach out to me. That way we can keep all the organization history in one place. So know that. But if you're a completely new org, haven't applied before, hit this create new account button and it will bring you to a page that looks like this. Pretty much the whole system. This also looks similar to how the application looks in the system. Pretty simple. Here are the boxes. Fill in the boxes. Anything that is required will have an asterisk, so you can include that information there. Important thing to know when you're creating your user information is the email that you put in as your username will be all the things you get from this site. So it will be your award information, it will be your reporting information, everything will go to the email address you use to create your user account. So make sure that's an email that you check regularly, not your junk email. It only sends emails when we ask it to. So it will be your reminders for those things and your actual decision information from the awards. So make sure that works. You also will be prompted to do an email confirmation. So make sure that you do that. I know it's an extra step, but that makes sure that you typed it in wrong or typed it in right, excuse me, not wrong, and that you will get the emails from the system. So you'll actually see the decision information, the reporting information, all those pieces. So that's important. When you are logged in, this is kind of an example of what your dashboard or homepage looks like. You can always head back to your homepage with this little home button at the top. That's always helpful. The apply button is where you go to see new open applications. So you might see some old ones in there as well. Those are still open so folks can get in to do their reporting. But you'll see on that apply button kind of all the things we have up, when they're due, all those pieces. So you can choose what applications you want. You also, anything that you have going already will show up like this. You'll have little drop downs with each of the applications or reports that you need to do that are assigned to you. And you can click on the edit application button here to get in and continue your app. When you are in an application, so this is kind of an example of what it might look like when you're working through an app, it will already include all of your contact info, your org info, all of those things from your account creation. So you don't have to worry about that piece. Just fill in kind of any of the blanks, especially those with asterisks. But as you're going, there's two ways to save it. If you want to save it externally for yourself or for others to review those pieces, that's via the application packet and the question list. So question list is just going to be the questions on the application. It will not include your answers. So if you want to just print a copy of that, so you have it for your records, or so you can show someone and say, hey, I need you to do the budget piece for me. Here's what it looks like. You can do that piece. The application packet is going to include all of your answers. This also should include anything that you've attached. So it should pull your attachments as well to print. So that pulls as a PDF and you can print as well. And then the other thing to note, there are two options, save application and submit application. You are welcome to go in as many times as you want, edit, draft, all of the things, but it will not be submitted until you hit that blue submit button. And once you hit that blue submit button, you can't access it again unless I give you that access back. So just know that, wait until you've reviewed, you feel really good to go, and then make sure you hit that submit. It will change on your homepage as well to say that you've submitted the application. If for some reason you say, oh, I actually have an edit I need to make, but I already submitted, reach out, let me know. We can usually move that back to a draft status for you. But questions on how that looks, how that works? Any of those pieces? Perfect. Most of you are pros on here. All right, couple other things before I move on. So we do have a couple other grants currently open outside of the impact grants. So I wanted you to be aware of them and know that they are out there. If you go to that grants portal, everything is in the portal already, so you can see them. Swisher Community Fund grants opened in end of June, and they are due in 10 days on July 25th. Those are going to be any project that's benefiting Swisher residents. So take a peek at that if you serve Swisher folks or have a program happening in Swisher. Those requests are going to be up to $1,500, and they'll make their decisions pretty quickly. So the folks should know in late August. They are also project program specific requests there. 5224 Good grants are also open. So those opened July 1st and they will close August 15th. This year, 5224 Good's focus is immigrant and refugee support. So if you work in that area, make sure you take a look at this application. I believe their request amount, I actually have wrong. I believe it's 15,000. It will be right on the online portal, but I'm pretty sure it's 15. And those decisions will be happening in October, with the award itself happening at their November 5th meeting. Then we have a bunch of events happening. We have a busy fall at the CFJC, so make sure you take a peek at all the things coming out. Make sure you're on our e-newsletter list so you get this information as well. But wanted to make sure we invited you to a couple of the big things going on. So we have on July 16th, we had an education session, or have an education session. So that's tomorrow, Wednesday at noon. That is going to be really focused on advocacy. So Paul Thielen from the Learned Waterman Center is coming to chat with us about advocacy for nonprofits, how that looks, how you can get involved, kind of what the rules are. He's an attorney, so he can give us some good feedback there. So take a peek at that. If you're able to join us tomorrow at lunch, please do. We will actually have, it's not on here, but we have a July 31st happy hour happening at Field Day. So they have a new Centennial Smash, which is a sour that they released. It's part of a partnership with the city of North Liberty. So a dollar of every pour or every 4-pack is going to the Centennial Park Project. So that's exciting. Take a peek at that. But really, I want to invite you on August 14th from 4 to 6 at Big Grove for a happy hour, really just to say thank you. We want to steward you, make sure you know how grateful we are for all that you do. So just a nonprofit appreciation, come get a drink on us, hang out. There'll be music and all the things. So we hope to see you at Big Grove, and that is co-hosted by Big Grove for Good. So you can learn a little more about that foundation and what they're working on as well. And then we're doing a partnership with the city of North Liberty for Movies on the Plaza. So there's 3 different movie showings happening in North Liberty for free. So check those out as well. And drum roll, we're turning 25 this year. So we have our big 25th anniversary celebration on October 30th. This is going to be at the Hy-Vee Center at Centennial Park in North Liberty. So a new event space out there. We're super excited to be in that space. And we'll be doing our grant awards at that as well. But lots of good things to share from our last 25 years of serving the community. So we hope to see you there.